I'm Chris Ralph. I'm with the ICMJ Prospecting Mining Journal. I'm the assistant editor, and I'm here doing a field test of Minelab's new Gold Monster 1000 metal detector, a fine VLF with high sensitivity. Now, I normally would be using the supplied headphones today, but today I'm going to be using the external speaker so I can share the sounds with you. So I'll put that aside. I'm going to turn the thing on and let it boot up. And while it's going through its boot up mode, I'll tell you that I've selected an area today that's really highly mineralized and has a lot of hot rocks in it. It's kind of noisy ground. In fact, it's honestly not the kind of ground I'd recommend for new prospectors, but just to show that it really can handle that. Actually today, just in the setting up of things and testing out the Gold Monster, I actually already found a nice little nugget with the metal detector, just scooting around here, testing it out and seeing how it goes. So we're going to use this nugget as one of our targets, and let me set it down right there. Now, I'm going to turn it on deep all metal mode and go quickly over the ground. Now, that's not any target, that's just the ground. That's how noisy this ground is. And we're going to show you in a little bit what it sounds like on discrimination mode, quiets it right down. But first, let's take a look at what some targets sound like in this all metal mode. That's a little bit of tin, a little bit of iron, rusty iron that I found. And you can see that it sounds very clearly, but the probability bar on the metal detector says this is clearly an iron target. Okay, this area has a lot of hot rocks. I picked up a little hot rock. You can hear on that little hot rock how noisy it is, how strong it is. That's only about a ½ an inch in size. And yet it sounds off because it's a very strong hot rock. Now on the probability bar, again, this is saying that this target is iron. And the reason that is that most hot rocks, even though it's not metallic iron, most hot rocks have a lot of combined iron minerals in them, and so they sound off as iron and show off in a discrimination setup as iron. So that's what that boinging sound is. Very typical sound for a hot rock, though not all hot rocks sound like that. Okay, so now let's do a bullet. You can see that we're getting a good loud target sound. It's a 22 bullet. It's lead, so it's non-ferrous. So our probability indicator is saying non-ferrous, non-ferrous, giving us a good indication. And then here's our nugget. We're getting a good target sound on that, and again the probability is telling us that it's non-ferrous. Now, one of the things I want to go over with you guys is also the discrimination. So let's turn on the discrimination and take a look at that. Okay, so now we're in discrimination mode, and I'm going to go over the ground again. Now you can hear we're getting a little bit of noise, but there's nothing like the kind of noise that we got when we were running in all metal non-discriminate mode. So that'll help quiet the ground down, and we'll talk about that in a second, but let's listen to the iron target. Okay, I'm going over the iron target, and you're hearing nothing, of course, because it's being discriminated out. And then the probability bar, though, is indicating that it's seeing a target, and on the face of the detector, it's telling me that it's steel, iron, you know, it's an iron target. Okay, so let's try the hot rock. Also discriminated out. That really loud little hot rock is now gone, although again the probability bar is seeing it and it's telling me that it's an iron target. Let's go over the bullet. Now see, the bullet is coming through loud and clear, and the probability bar is telling me that it's not an iron target, that it's a non-ferrous target, which it is, lead. And then let's go over the nugget. Again, a strong non-ferrous target that's telling me that it is something I want to dig. So let's talk about discrimination a little bit, just real briefly. Discrimination is a tool. It's not perfect, okay? And the bar sometimes will jump around, especially in mineralized areas like this. You go over a target and it may indicate, oh, kind of ferrous, non-ferrous, ferrous, ferrous. You can go back and forth. What you're looking to do is to get it into a mode where it focuses and gives you a strong reading one way or the other, not bouncing around. Now, there's a couple reasons why it might bounce around. One is that you're not centered right over the target. You see, the closer the coil is to the target, the more accurate that discrimination is going to be. And so if you're swinging off to the side of the target and you're not quite getting over it, you may get indications that aren't correct. The other thing is if the depth of the target is deep. If you're not close enough to it depth-wise, you may have to dig off a few inches of material in order to get down close enough to see that target accurately and get a good discrimination that indicates either strongly ferrous or strongly non-ferrous. But as long as you're close enough and the target is of any size and you're swinging right over it, this detector gives you a good solid reading, a good solid indication on whether the target is ferrous or non-ferrous. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. And then in areas like this that are highly mineralized, you saw how loud, let's go back to, I've gone back to all metal, you can see. You can hear that the machine is making lots of noise over the ground here because of the variation in the mineralization. And so for new prospectors, I would recommend two things if you're in an area like this. One is go ahead and hunt in the discriminating mode, because here's discrimination mode. You can see we've quieted it down quite a bit. There's still a little bit of noise, but we've quieted it down. The other thing that you may want to do in bad ground like this is to turn the gain down. This machine has automatic gain, but there are cases, especially like this kind of ground, difficult ground, where you may want to turn the gain down a little bit just to quiet down some of the ground and the hot rocks. That'll just make your detecting a lot easier. And in the end, it's about making those gold nuggets stand out. And like I proved today, you know, even in an area that really is a difficult area for a VLF, this is a difficult area for a VLF, I was able to find some gold. And so it's a very good detector. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to do a second field demonstration, and I'm going to take it out to an area of much milder ground, and we're going to talk some more about how to use the detector, how to get the best out of it, and what it can do for you, and how it should sound in low mineralized ground. So hang on, we're not done yet. Hey, hi, we're back again for a second segment of part two. And here we've found a spot, or I found a spot that has much milder ground, ground that's easier on a VLF type machine. Today's bedrock is slate, and it's not so mineralized. There's a lot of placer workings right above me. We're kind of at the bottom end of it, but I had to pick a spot that was level for shooting the video. So today we're going to take a look at starting up the Gold Monster 1000. So I'm just going to turn it on and let it go through its normal boot up cycle. As I mentioned in the other segment, I'd normally use headphones, but because I want you to hear what's going on, I put it into an external speaker mode. So anyway, let's take a listen. I've got it now in all metal mode, and remember how chattery it was in all metal mode at the other location. And so I want to give you a flashback. So let's take a listen to what it was like at the other location. Okay, now you can remember how loud that is, and now listen to it in all metal, same mode, but in milder location. We're going over this bedrock, and you can see I'm getting hardly a peep out of it. There's some bedrock right here. Now that's actually a target. It's so quiet, the targets stand out, and I can tell you that the indicator bar, the probability bar, it was showing all the way over to iron. Like I say, there's a lot of workings right up above me, and so there is a little bit of trash, but see how quiet the bedrock is? So no problem in a quiet bedrock, a low mineralization or moderate mineralization bedrock. You want to run in the all metal mode as opposed to the discrimination mode. And basically with this, now I can go along in all metal mode, and if I do hit a target like this, I can put it back into discrimination mode, and you can see it blanks out. That target is gone, and again, the probability bar is showing me that it's iron, so it definitely is an iron target. And I'm going to go back to all metal mode. So now I'm back in all metal mode for general hunting. Again, another target. There's a lot of little bits of iron trash in here. But that's a good thing for a VLF when you've got fairly mild ground and you've got good discrimination. That'll make the VLF perform even better. So remember this, when you're hunting in really difficult mineralized ground and the machine is chattering like the example I just showed you from the first segment, you want to hunt in your discrimination mode because it'll quiet the machine down. You may also want to turn the gain down some. And in fact, what I would do before I switched to, if you're talking about a scale of from low mineralization to high, the first thing I do in adjusting is turn the gain down a little bit. Your metal detector is not like a radio where when you turn the gain, the volume all the way down on the radio, you can't hear it. Even turning the gain all the way down, you still have a good response on this metal detector. So turn the gain down a little bit to try and quiet that chattering. If it still is too chattery, then you want to go to the discrimination mode, and that will help chatter or shut down that chatter and make the machine more stable. And that's what you want to do. That's your main ways of getting the machine to quiet down, because the whole goal in detecting for gold is not to listen to rocks and minerals chatter and make noise at you. It's to find gold. And so you want to make the gold and other targets stand out from the background. And if you're listening to beep 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 chit chit chocolate beep 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 all the time, you don't know that one of those beeps might have been a gold nugget. So if you can quiet the machine down and stabilize it so it's beep, 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 then you know that that one signal is a target that you need to investigate. It may be lead or something else, but it could well be a gold nugget. So keeping the machine fairly stable and quiet is an important part of using a VLF, any VLF, including, of course, the Gold Monster 1000. So all things considered, it's a lot easier, especially for a new prospector, to be hunting in ground like this that's pretty mild, that isn't giving you a lot of different signals. See, I can hunt this bedrock. There's some crevices back here. I'm not getting a lot of noise. It's a lot easier to hunt a spot like this for a new prospector than it is like the one that I showed you in the first segment. Like I said, for the first segment, literally, I think that that's a spot where it's really not, kind of borderline, pretty borderline for using a VLF. Really, you're better off using a pulse induction machine. And there certainly still is a place for pulse induction machines in badly mineralized ground. And so the Gold Monster 1000, even though it's a fine piece of equipment and certainly capable of finding gold, and I certainly have found some nice gold with this, it also is a machine that is subject to some of the strengths and weaknesses of a VLF, one of which is difficulty in mineralized ground. So use it smartly and use the discrimination smartly. If you can, run in all metal, and then when you get to a target, you can switch to discrimination, and not only will it quiet the target, make the target silent, but you'll see that probability bar saying iron or one of the other, that it's either iron or that it's a non-ferrous target, which you want to investigate the non-ferrous targets. Discrimination may not always give you a solid reading. I kind of mentioned that, and it's a matter of getting the coil close to the target and properly centered right over the target. You may need to dig a little bit before you get a nice solid reading telling you one way or the other. If you get one of those in-between readings, you need to investigate further until you find something, until you get a reading that solidly says ferrous or non-ferrous. And of course, obviously, if it's non-ferrous, you need to dig, because it could be gold. So that's some practical advice about getting the best out of your discrimination. The closer the coil is to the target, and the better centered over it that the coil is, the more accurate that reading is. And you want to keep going until you get a good, solid, accurate reading telling you one way or the other. So that's when to use discrimination and when not to use it. You know, if the ground is mild, don't use it, and then just switch to discriminate when you get a target. You know, you get something that's, see, I'm in indiscriminate, but if you were to get a target, you need to check it. So you can switch back and forth between discriminate and non-discriminate. That's a good technique to use, and used by a lot of people for a lot of years, even on other machines. So let's now talk about the two different coils. I have the larger coil, and generally I would use the larger coil. In some specific places where you want to get into tight bedrock and get real close down to see if there's any small gold, the smaller coil will do you better. And we also, at the very end of this segment, I'm going to pull out the small coil and give you a kind of a special trick, a tip that I want to include with this video. So, you know, that's basically the end of this segment. Let's take a look now at my special trick that I want to include for you. Hi, hey, I'm back for a third segment of part 2 of this video of field use of the Gold Monster 1000. This is a final segment of this video. What I wanted to show you was a little trick that I promised earlier in the video about using the broomstick adapter. This is actually not a broomstick, but it is a rake stick. I raked a lot of leaves with the rake that this came from, and got old, and so I decided to cut it. And what I've done here is made a little tiny pin pointer. Now, I use the GPZ 7000 quite a bit, and it's got a big coil, and it's got a dual sensitivity, and the way it's set up, it's just really hard to dig deep targets without digging a giant crater. And a lot of times I wish for a pin pointer with more sensitivity than your standard coin pin pointer, because those are made for hunting coins, and coins are big old targets. And sometimes it's tough to work that way. So I wanted a discriminator that has a nice coil on the end of it, and can be used to discriminate and see, well, I'm digging to China, you know, with a target, and I want to know if it's a nail or not, or some other bolt or something that I just as soon leave in the ground. So the Gold Monster 1000, this is not something that anybody is going to buy the Gold Monster 1000 just for this. But if you're looking for an auxiliary VLF, that sensitive VLF that you can use in places where a VLF would be handy, in addition to your GPZ 7000 or maybe your GPX machine that you use with a big coil, this is actually a pretty handy tool that, and I could honestly have made this shorter. I could easily stuff this in a backpack and take it with me just about anywhere. So actually, I think this is a pretty handy little invention, and because it comes with this broomstick adapter, you can literally put it on a broomstick and leave the coil there. You know, you could have your general use be with the larger coil and the specific use as a pin pointer with this smaller coil, and it's not that easy or not that difficult to change the you know, the electronics head there, the battery and the electronics. So Anyway, that's kind of the end of our field use of the Gold Monster 1000. I think you can see that it's a really excellent detector, that it's a good VLF, that yes, it can discriminate really well. It can be used in a lot of different applications. It's not going to take the place of a pulse induction machine, but it really has its place, and there's really a lot of good spots like this little stream bed here. I'm going to detect this after we get done with this video. I think that you'll find that the Gold Monster is an excellent machine. Now, there's one more part to this video set, part 3. We're going to be talking about the types of places that a Gold Monster is going to be really at its best. Not, you know, I'm not going to give you specific locations, but the kinds of places that you might want to take your Gold Monster to, because you're more than likely to have some good success at those kinds of places. And then some hints, especially for new prospectors, but, you know, good review for other folks. Hints on how to get the best out of nugget shooting, how to use the Gold Monster and other detectors too. A lot of it applies to other detectors as well, but hints on how to get the best performance that'll just enable you to find some gold with your metal detector and make you more successful. So stay tuned and watch part 3 with me. And if you've enjoyed these videos, be sure and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next segment.